You and I both know that the midterms are looming large over Donald Trump because they're going to be a wipeout of the Republican Party, a repudiation of his presidency, and the beginning of the end. And Donald Trump knows that, and it's why he wants them canceled. He said it in a secret meeting, and it is now all becoming public. Donald Trump has attacked elections since he started participating in them, and now it has reached its ultimate conclusion. Donald Trump wanting voting to end. We're going to get into it all, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work to call out this authoritarian regime. Now, before we get into what was leaked, what Donald Trump had to say about the midterms, again, I want to start with the reason that he's so scared. New polling that has only gotten worse and worse and worse for Donald Trump.
Take a look here. Trump's net approval rating on immigration. You go back a year ago, he was in the positive at +8 points, 2 thumbs up. You come over to this side of the screen. Hello, look at this drop way down in the basement, now down to a -11 points. That's a nearly 20-point switcheroo in the negative direction. The American people have turned on Donald Trump when it comes to immigration enforcement. They do not like what he is doing, simply put.
It's a big 20-point swing there. What do you see maybe as the tipping point? When did things turn?
Yeah, you know, I think Donald Trump may have this idea that I want to be hawkish on immigration. That's what the American people want to see. They want to see that we're really going out there and we're rounding up people who are in the country illegally. But take a look on this. This, I think, really gives the game away. How long has Trump had a negative net approval rating on immigration? It has been every day since the Los Angeles ICE protests. Remember, that was the first real sort of fight between those protesters and those folks out there on ICE. That was, of course, back in June of 2025. And we have now had 218 days in a row in which Donald Trump has had a net negative approval rating on immigration. Again, the American people do not like the way that Donald Trump is enforcing the immigration laws in this country and these quarrels between ICE and these ICE protesters.
Yeah, it may have been the day, this may have been the moment when the methods came into focus so much, which seems to be what is turning people. Look, how is ICE doing as an institution in the polls?
Yeah, ICE as an institution is failing in the polls, and it is dragging Donald Trump down with them. What are we talking about here? Well, take a look here. ICE's net approval rating. In Trump's first term, he was at ICE was at 0 points. You know, not too hot to trot, but not too bad either. It was higher than Donald Trump's overall approval rating. But now, look at this. -17 points. -17 points, the net approval rating of ICE. Among independents, it's even lower than that. 31 points underwater. ICE is dragging Trump down and Trump's immigration approval rating down with him.
Okay.
How can you see those numbers and not expect that the fascist who said he wanted to be a dictator on day one, that claims every time he loses it's fraud or the votes got shipped in or it's the Democrats, the deep state, how would you expect Donald Trump to react to those numbers? This is historically bad. Trump at the beginning of his term thought he was untouchable, and too many played into that idea. You remember all the Democrats who voted to confirm his cabinet nominees, those that voted for the Lincoln-Riley Act, like Angie Craig, who's running for Senate in Minnesota, by the way, who should lose. I just did an interview with Peggy Flanagan. You should absolutely support a real Democrat, a real progressive in that race. But nevertheless, Donald Trump has come so far down in the polls, I didn't even think he thought that he would get this low. It is historically bad, and he knows what's going to happen next. He said it right here.
But you got to win the midterms, because if we don't win the midterms, it's just going to be, I mean, they'll find a reason to impeach me. I'll get impeached. We don't impeach them. You know why? Because they're meaner than we are. We should have impeached Joe Biden for 100 different things.
A wipeout in the midterms and then an impeachment. That is what Donald Trump knows is coming. And he's already seeing it right now. Republicans in the House of Representatives, Don Bacon is talking about a Republican-led impeachment if Trump invades Greenland. So the effort to expand his authoritarian project through military force might actually come back to bite him. Hopefully it does. I don't know why it took invading a sovereign nation for Republicans to wake up to the fascist regime, but here we are. And Donald Trump knows, here we are. And that is why this is what's coming out in a new report from Reuters. 5 takeaways from the Reuters interview of Donald Trump. January 15th, Reuters sat down with U.S. President Donald Trump for an interview in the Oval Office on Wednesday. Here are some takeaways from the 30-minute exchange. Trump repeatedly dismissed concerns by the public, business leaders, and even his fellow Republicans on issues ranging from the future of Greenland and the criminal investigation into Fed Chair Jerome Powell to the state of the economy. Managing midterm expectations. The president expressed frustration that his Republican Party could lose control of the U.S. House of Representatives and as well as the Senate in this year's midterm elections, citing historical trends that have been seen the party in power lose seats in the second year of a presidency. It's some deep psychological thing, but when you win the presidency, you don't win the midterms, Trump said. He boasted that he had accomplished so much that when you think of it, we shouldn't even have an election. We shouldn't even have an election. I would just like to make it clear to Donald Trump, before we get into the threat to eliminate the midterms entirely, that Joe Biden in his presidency did see Democrats flip seats. Now, he did lose the House of Representatives, held on to the Senate, but he did see Democrats flip what were once red seats. Okay, so let's make that clear. It is not an impossibility. It is an impossibility when you were the most unpopular president in American history, when you are jacking up prices, when you are calling for an invasion of Greenland, when you are prosecuting your political enemies, when you are sending your thugs after American citizens, when you're sending your thugs after whoever you want. No, you are not going to win or have any success in the midterms. And he's saying, let's cancel them. We shouldn't have the elections because they're all but decided, which is pretty funny coming from the guy who tried to make sure the midterms were decided in his favor, that they were going to be predetermined by drawing gerrymandered maps across the country. Texas didn't work out too well. Indiana said no. Kansas, nope. Florida, we'll see what happens. But Donald Trump tried to predetermine the midterms. Donald Trump already tried to do this. Gavin Newsom told him no. And Republicans, funny enough, just lost their lawsuit trying to block not Gavin Newsom's maps. Of course, Gavin Newsom brought the maps forward, but it was the people of California who voted for the maps. This didn't happen in the middle of the night. But Donald Trump already tried to predetermine the midterms. That was his goal with Texas. That was his goal with Indiana. Now that was rebuked. But Trump wanted to decide the midterms before they happened. But what he doesn't want is the people to decide the midterms before they happen. He wants Elon Musk's money and Larry Ellison's money and Miriam Adelson's money to determine the midterms. He wants Republicans who have already entrenched themselves in power to decide the midterms. He does not want you to determine the midterms. And he does know what's coming. Impeachments of not just him, but his cabinet secretaries, endless investigations, the release of the Epstein files, subpoenas of Ghislaine Maxwell, of other Epstein associates, making sure that Donald Trump cannot run. And what terrifies him most is that if Mike Johnson isn't Speaker of the House come 2029, there is no way for Donald Trump to hold power through that body. Now, maybe he wants to send military out into the streets. Great, we'll defund ICE. We'll defund your thugs. We'll have that power of the purse. It's what Democrats should do right now. If you're Chuck Schumer, and I don't believe in Chuck Schumer, so that's a difficult person to be banking on, but you should not fund the government if it means giving a penny to ICE to go out and kill Americans. A kid was just shot in the face and blinded. They're doing all sorts of killing and maiming of American citizens, of people. It doesn't matter if you're a citizen, just of anybody, of American. People are here in this country and they are killing them. You should not give them money. And so whatever Donald Trump thinks is going to be his ability to control government is going away rather quickly. And it's why, set aside what he said about the midterms, right? Let's think about the other most core tenet to Donald Trump's administration: corruption, fraud, profiting, right? That's what Donald Trump wants to do. He ultimately wants to profit off of the office. So it's interesting to me that this comes, Donald Trump saying, well, we should just do away with these elections because we know what's going to happen after. I'm going to be screwed. This comes at the same time as Donald Trump has put $500 million from the sales of Venezuelan oil into an account in Qatar, with the fear that those assets, which should be sitting in U.S. Treasury accounts, could be frozen or could be stolen. Now, why would we need to, as the United States of America, right? Our currency is essentially the world currency. Less so every day under Donald Trump. But we are in charge of the money. Like, let's be honest about what the United States is. It's the dollar, okay? It's backed by the biggest military in the world. It used to be backed by democracy and institutions people could trust. Trump eliminated that. Hopefully we work our way back. But why would we need to set up offshore bank accounts? Well, it's maybe because Donald Trump is worried about what Congress will do with that money. And the Qataris, they don't work with the U.S. government. They work with Donald Trump. Because if Congress is saying one thing and Trump is saying another, who are they going to back? The U.S. government or the president that they gave a plane to, who's letting them run wild? Like that's what's been set up here. That is the type of civil war that we're going to see in our government. Why else would Donald Trump be looking to put billions of dollars away in accounts that the U.S. government can't even really touch? Offshore bank accounts. Seems a little suspicious, doesn't it? A little suspicious. It seems like they're thinking ahead on some stuff. These people are dumb, but when it comes to money, they're good on the grift, right? Like, let's be real. These are buffoons, these are idiots, they're dumb people. But when it comes to grifting, that is when they lock in, right? When there is a buck to be made off of me and you, when they can rip us off, then they really focus up. Then it's time to get down to the nitty gritty. The healthcare plan is 2 weeks away. Crumbling American infrastructure, we don't need to worry. Teachers, no pay raise, education, what is that? But when it comes to Donald Trump making a buck, whether it's crypto, golf courses, planes, now it's time to really pay attention. They're thinking ahead. Don't for a second believe that they're not thinking ahead on how to orchestrate all of this. And it only fails if we pay attention and work ahead as much as they do. There's not money sitting in an offshore account with Donald Trump's besties for him not to use it in some emergency situation or literally just take it for himself and put it in his crypto coin. So we either have, in the best case scenario, Donald Trump is simply just stealing from you. That's the best case scenario. Billions of dollars he is just stealing. He spent your tax dollars to seize oil in Venezuela, the profits of which are being put in a Qatari bank account for him. The worst case scenario is that he needs that money for something to act outside of Congress. That's some scary shit. I hope I'm not dooming too much today, but I think it's important that we realize the place that we're in and be honest about it. And I can always promise that I will be honest with you in calling out this administration. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments.